Welcome to the book release reading for Slow Now with Clear Skies by Julene Tripp Weaver and Each Unkept Secret by Donna Prinzmetal. Sorry, Donna Prinzmetal. I'm Lana Hechtman Ayers, the managing editor for MoonPath Press, and I'd like to thank you for showing up for poetry as summer is on the cusp of fall and changes are coming along, hopefully for the better. Poetry demonstrates our common humanity. Sharing, listening, and reading poetry inspires us toward compassion and becoming our best selves. Our first reader is Julene. Julene Tripp Weaver, a psychotherapist and writer in Seattle, has 3 prior poetry collections, including Truth Be Bold, Serenading Life and Death in the Age of AIDS from Finishing Line Press. It won the Bisexual Book Award, 4 Human Relations Indie Book Awards, and was a finalist for the Lambda Literary Awards. Truth Be Bold also empowered Julene to start writing a memoir about her life and work as a long-term AIDS survivor. She is an artivist, which means that she works with Through Positive Eyes project sponsored by the Gates Discovery Center and UCLA Art and Global Health, whose goal is to eliminate the stigma of AIDS through sharing stories. She was a Jack Straw Writing Fellow in 2003. Julene's Slow Now with Clear Skies is a necessary collection that encompasses personal empowerment and global consciousness. Julene, would you please read for us?
Thank you, Lana. I am so grateful to Lana Hechtman Ayers and to MoonPath Press for publishing my book. And I will start with one of my autobiographical poems that's in the book. I have 2 in here. And this one is after Gregory Hardlow, How I Came to This World. It was a leap year on a Thursday. I was born upstate New York, Borscht Belt small town, to a family of farmers where covered bridges crossed creeks, 20 miles to the racetrack in Monticello, our nearest city, where father worked for an air conditioning installation firm, the evergreen of the Catskills. A mother off seeking 4-leaf clovers, born to arrowhead and quartz, to blueberry bushes and back fields. I ran to frogs and salamanders across stone fences, through wild woods. No eyes followed me. It was during the Cold War Red Scare, but I, a wild barn child, was unaware. Daddy's little girl, I wore patent leather shoes at Easter and blue velvet at Christmas. The cameo necklace mother gave me fell into a stream. I was a wild thing from go, feeling the velocity of wind. The night I came, a fierce push. I was born clear white, pastel perfect skin, with spit-on Irish blood and German ancestry I was told never to acknowledge by a direct line uncle. The year I came, there was a storm brewing in the guts of women to have climaxes they'd never reached. There was a surge to land on the moon. The atom bomb was introduced from Britain. Born in the year of the dragon, I knew it would be rocky, not a sing in the rain, nor the cotton candy fun world where mother resided. Next, I'm gonna read a poem that is titled Bus Stop in San Antonio, AWP Off-Site. It was March 2020, and AWP, the Association of Writing Professionals, had to make a decision whether to stay live or whether to not be live with people going there because of COVID. And I was grateful to have a reading panel my first time at AWP, so I really wanted to go. And when they decided to have it, I went. And this is a poem that comes out of that experience. And it's the first night. It's also was published in this book, which is a guide to creative writing and the imagination that comes out of MoonPath Press. And it's a great teaching book. And it's in there with an interview as a poem I was working on at the time I did the interview. He says, I've been sent to test him, that he's a good person, so he will pass the test. That's good, I say. The word schizophrenia lands in my brain. He says, I will act like I don't know what he's talking about. It's a test of his character. Tells me he won't hurt me. People like you have cars. He's black. I'm white. He's right. I'm traveling, so I don't have a car. He asks if I have a car at home. I do. He asks why I'm taking the bus. Reminds me he won't hurt me. I explain I lived in New York, the city. I'm used to public buses. I don't fit the expectation for a white woman with white hair, a tourist at a conference, to wait at a bus stop in any sprawling city. I'm not feeble, I say. He asks what that means. I don't need a walker. I motion to my feet, sturdy. But are they? I get leg cramps. Don't you have that? He puts his hand to his mouth, his other hand motions pushing buttons. Uber, he says, or I pull out my phone. Lyft? Then explain, I don't get data without Wi-Fi, so I take a bus or walk. Because I get texts, we look at the schedule. It's 8:48. A bus is due at 9:21. Agitated, he's already waited a half hour. Says he's been up since dawn at a construction job. Heading to his sister's place for the night. Homeless. I'm glad you have a place to stay. We board the bus, sit a seat apart. He makes sure I get off at the right stop. We wave goodbye. I exit for the vegan cafe, healthy food, and a poetry reading. He travels on, safe for tonight. Missing the last bus, I walk back to the hotel. People like me aren't expected to ride a bus, to walk the lonely streets, to meet those who provide the labor that builds our cities. Then I'm gonna go to the poem titled Letting Go. And it has an epigraph by Eva Salutis. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name right. There are worse things that could happen than disappearing without a trace, aren't there? Letting go. I'm letting go of earthly possessions, except this book, maybe that book. After a certain age, there is no need for a clunky couch. Give up the dream of a queen or a king-size bed, such inflated desire. Forgo the new sink fixture, although easy to grasp handles work better than thick plastic knobs. Money has its say. There comes a point when $200 is too much to spend, and you long for a flush bank account. You assert life does not require a large footprint. All life requires is a trace, a roll down the hillside, a sweet stalk of wheat to suck, soil beneath your feet. Earth has its own grief. and will buck up against belongings, steal them away, only a matter of time. The trace you leave, that book you wrote, tomorrow will be left out in the rain, pages curled. That glass of water you swallowed till half empty, you realize the futility of wealth. How unreal we are against natural forces. Fire, rain, stars explode. We don't feel their sparks. The homeless with their pungent bodies dig in the trash. Cars with shaded windows drive past. The end is coming fast. No matter how young, now is the time to sort out what is necessary, to make decisions, the yes, the no, to clarify the ache we feel for this or that possession. The next poem I'm going to read was written after the Roe versus Wade a couple years ago was struck down. Those of us who aborted. We came out of broken homes. Our fathers died or went to jail. There were few role models. We grew used to making our own decisions, fast, early, distracted into sex, afraid of sex, wanting but not wanting. We knew it all. Blown up in our certainty, we would not get caught until we were. Nothing we could do wrong or right. It wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. And we were lucky to have an escape hatch. Abortion legal so long, 50 years. We had that luxury, took it for granted. We hid our secret. It was shameful what we did. Caught, sluts. We might have been raped. We were ruined. We gave it away and it went awry. Determined no more. We were getting to know our bodies, how the pill made us sick but kept us safe. The copper 7 was a trial we could survive. The Dalcon shield ruined our uterine wall. Some of us survived. Men in our life supported us or left. Our families bent in or away, deserting us to the streets. Some of us had jobs, others not. We begged and went to work the same day our wombs were scraped. We had a partner with us or a girlfriend, or we went alone. We knew women used to die from this, and we didn't know if it would kill us. We were babies. Some of us had our tonsils removed, ate ice cream. Others never had surgery, didn't know you could walk in and out the same day. We were a mess or ultra confident. We were angry, wanting a child, but the timing was off. Or we knew this was the right decision. We wanted to believe in something. Mixed with emotions that plagued us, did anybody understand? There was not enough time to make such a decision, but limited time to make it. Weeks, crunched now to 0. And that's a prose poem, by the way. And I'm going to go next to, in the middle section, there's a lot of family poems, and there's, I'm going to read one of my mother poems. Unresolved Mother. This one was published in Feels Blind, and it was nominated for a pushcart. Of course, that didn't come to anything that I'm aware of, but it was nice to have that nomination. Unresolved Mother. When there was never a mother to turn to, but you needed a mother. When you had to become your own mother, answer your own questions, learn to survive without a functional guide. Each day held hope, something would change. She might snap out of the world she lived in, join you, have a mother-to-daughter conversation. She might change her clothes, put on a clean dress, wash the butter out of her hair, that she uses to protect against hairstylists. Maybe the mother you dreamed would emerge. Now, orphaned, you regret you weren't kind enough. We wish you'd known earlier about schizophrenia, internal voices, and why she would not bathe. Wish you'd insisted she drank water that hot day of her stroke. The next poem I'm going to read is has the title of the book in it. I've lived through one war. I've had my share of the I am dying lament. I'll not go there with this new pandemic. I lived through one war, AIDS, worked and lived through death up close. People take risks, bug chasers fucked to get HIV, that old story. Citizens throw corona parties to get sick, build immunity. They make decisions irrespective of rules or science. Meet with a friend, walk in a park, conscientious. I will shelter in this with reason, unafraid. My body's strong despite a retrovirus I've learned to live with over 30 years. No known reason why I survived. People criticize those who exercise free will, speak with judgment from fear, become vigilante citizens, fight with store clerks who request they wear a mask. In the Philippines, they shoot offenders of shelter in place. We must ask new questions, find unconventional answers. Remember our history. Listen to those who survived stigma and shame. It's time for massive change before we proceed. Our planet, slow now with clear skies. The next piece I'm going to read is the longest piece in the book, and it's a series of sonnets, of 5 sonnets. And the first line of the first section is the last line of the 5th sonnet. And then each last line of each sonnet is the beginning line of the next sonnet. So it's from my study of herbal, the Wise Woman Herbal Tradition. So it's called Wise Woman Herbal Tradition Self-Care Quest. And the, anyway, I'll just read it from there. 1. Blindsided, I stop to hold myself still. Despite the dark, I trust and dance in unknown waters with slowed down movement, arms stretched, a leggings day. Comfort in a field seeking what soothes this frayed nervous system. Start with a ceramic cup to wrap my hands around, chai to boost clarity and insight. Stop, absorb the heat. Acknowledge this time is the only time despite the stress the high-strung eruptions in the world. I feel my toes, walk onward and listen. Tree ghosts answer my invisible questions that float in dark hollows. 2. Questions that float in dark hollows. Recessed knowledge of herbs in my cells, what works well within this body. Brushing against oats, I hear a whisper, an ancient wise call from workhorses whose steady nerves pulled their weight, consistent strength from what they ate. There is a wise woman inside. She understands the nutrition of ritual, what plants provide, how they give back what they take from this earth, how minerals infuse health through preparation, prevent illness long before it starts. She's on a pilgrimage to heal without regret. 3. A pilgrimage to heal without regret. I flutter forward. Rustling leaves offer answers on this golden path. I taste and harvest bountiful weeds from nature's wild space. I glow in sunlight, give thanks to each cutting, leave the mother, the tallest ancestor. Say a prayer, bestow my gratitude. This is time away from busy, time in, to find myself and my ally plants, to sustain this life into the future, this quiet where fairies dance and sing, secrets revealed. Willow is strongest during a storm. A twig of willow falls. 4. During a storm, a twig of willow falls. Chewing it, my headache disappears. Ancient ritual of my grandmother, passed on in stories from childhood. How do I know? Time is universal. We carry our history in our bones and mouth, that oral cavity canal, throat to sphincter, secrets of the body formulated into science. Foxglove killed a man, speeded up his heart. Now we have digitalis. Careful, do not confuse foxglove with comfrey, that bone knit plant that weaves together any broken bone from its poultice. 5. Any broken bone from its poultice. Comfrey will heal like a dream. Miracle plant that scares people. Wise women have never been afraid. Their antidotal evidence is strong. Lost in skepticism, it's hard facing those with so much authority, backed up with research from what they stole. Sensitive in the fray of rules and regulations, many knocked down. Frightening reality in a world where people suffer too long, despite the allies they could use to heal. Blindsided, I stop to hold myself still. I'm going to read one more really short one. To end, because this is, if I can find it. Oh, here it is. Oh. Learn to love. A new world is on its way. It started at Woodstock with Vietnam protests. Long hair rebels took off into the blue sky on motorcycles, forever nomads. Now, how many live in RVs on the move like Romani travelers, changed by necessity, far from the standard American capital's lifestyle, way beyond the reach of the buzz. We travel through life and time, make a path, create our heart home. We carry each other, hold hands, learn to love. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julene, for that powerful reading. Our next reader is Donna. Donna Prinzmetal is a poet and psychotherapist living in Portland, Oregon. She is the recipient of the 2020 Lewis Cranston Prize for Poetry from Calyx. Her first book, Snow White When No One Was Looking, was published with CW Books in 2014. Each Unkept Secret was a finalist for the MoonPath Press Sally Albizo Award and is her second book. The poems in each Unkept Secret navigate challenging familial and personal landscapes toward healing and emotional clarity. Please read for us, Donna.
Thank you, Lana. And thank you so much for publishing this book. Here it is with all its little flags in it. I'm so grateful to MoonPath. And you do such a beautiful job on your books. There are lots of people in the audience that know the house that I grew up in, and there are several poems that take place there. This is called At the Mahogany Table. My mother fingers the silver bell, her pale skin marked with brown spots. My hand looks small next to hers. Everyone is talking at once. On my plate, the pink roast beef drowns in gravy. A half-eaten popover has melted the round scoop of butter. Mother smells of replique and cigarettes. I can't stop looking at the yellow and brown cityscape my father's painting. On the wall, tall geometric shapes, its oil smell. The dining room echoes with voices, 645 Comstock in spring, the end of another school year, almost. My sister Jan laughs too loud. Debbie hasn't changed her name yet. Dad is at the other end, his voice so deep it rumbles under my chair. You need to pay attention to the details, he says. They are talking about Debbie's valedictory speech. It's 1967. My white cardigan with the tiny fake pearl buttons is too warm. I'm afraid I'll get butter on the sleeves, so I take it off. My hair is short and still gold, but it's growing out and tickles my ears. I am so used to this cacophony, everyone talking at once, when a new voice, higher than I expect, rises with a kind of ping. I feel it in the back of my throat. What about starting with a list? All those science projects. I say out loud, it seems. I don't even believe it's me. I am thinking of ideas for her speech, but nobody pays attention except my oldest sister, Karen. Her brown eyes meet my blue ones. Wait, she says in a voice of rare authority. Donna said something. She emphasizes my name, though she couldn't have heard exactly what I said. There is a break in the clink of silver knives on white wedgewood, and the voices have all stopped. There could be a floodlight bathing me in a waterfall of white. I feel laid bare, naked, cold. Goose flesh rises on my arms as everyone begins to clap. It is the first time I have spoken at the dinner table, ever. I am 11 years old. I want to hide in the kitchen at the little kids' table. I want to pick up the gravy boat and dive into it. Everyone is looking at me. I slip down in the stiff-backed dining room chair. My blue shift clings to my sticky thighs. I have spoken. I know how to speak. There is no going back now. Thank you. And I'm not going to embarrass her by pointing her out, but my sister Karen, who appears in that poem, is also in the audience today. Inheritance. From my mother, I inherited a dwarfed pinky toe, one tiny white spot on my skin, wide hips. From my father, his love for the Impressionists, his craving for books. From the poets, in spite of all efforts to the contrary, I inherited a love of dead things. The threadbare gold skeletons of last year's tomatillos, the artichoke flowers that turn to dust when I try to hold them. And once in Kelly Park, the translucent white ghosts of a mother and daughter swinging their legs from the branch of an old oak, that diaphanous light, their unendurable beauty. This poem came from really the title and the list quality of a poem by Brendan Constantine. And his poem, I think, is called Where Do You Get Your Ideas? And my poem is called Where Do Poems Come From? Sometimes in dreams, or dangling from the tips of pine needles like dew or tears, a sickle moon perched in my chest when I am alone and empty-headed. I found my first under a still warm sheet, read another on his thigh at the point of imprint with mine. I found one on the beach, under that 5-tunnel rock there in the sand with all the sculpin and hermit crabs, but the hole bloomed with water before I could read it. I still have the rock. In my vegetable garden once, I collected October ghosts, smashed remains of sungolds, sharp spine of artichoke flowers, one still green brandywine, and there, with the delicate tomatillo skeletons, was a poem. Unwritten, of course, but like the green tomato, I was sure it would ripen. Sometimes a poem lies in wait, coiled and hissing. If it strikes, I can suck the venom from my thumb and hold a pen. I'm certain there is a poem that will answer all my questions like a devoted mother who, attentive to signs of distress, carries her glassy-eyed child. This poem carries the exact names of everything. It knows my name, not the one I was given, but the one I was meant to have. This poem is written from the point of view of my mother. And it's not actually the way my mother would have talked, but it came to me, and it's called My Dead Mother Speaks to Me, reminding me she is not a metaphor. Death is Rachmaninoff's third concerto played by Horowitz, inflamed and so loud, sparks fly from the white keys. Death is also a black scorpion in the desert, tail curled in anticipation. The ocean is dismal with fog. It comes in blankets that hover but do not warm. Fog is also death. Even a tiny blonde girl who jumps rope, her ponytail leaping as she chants in a voice that rattles like seeds inside a gourd. And the trampoline with broken springs buried in the ground where rats play, where cats find them. I've been with death all this time, and still I am dizzy watching her hunt. Death is sleek as any jaguar. Her velvet coat shimmers even at night. But me, I am just a mom who remembers when your hair was gold and your eyes glimmered while I read to you. You always did exaggerate. I am not death. I am just dead, and there is a difference. I'm going to read a really old poem from when, now as a mother, from when my daughter was very little. It's called Elizabeth with Lettuces. Unblinking blue of water from the park's view of Santa Monica Beach, shimmering its ice next to the pier with the pink and beige carousel, I wheel you by the produce market. Up Arizona, past cactuses, flowers, and honey, while you are sleeping deep amid throngs of people, tarragon and basil, hanging ropes of garlic $1 a head, Chinese peas and sunflower sprouts, past fruit stands. Fruit is heavy, I'll do that last. And vine-ripe, warm tomatoes, I cradle next to the white eggplant I like for its slick, clean skin. Foregoing watermelon and strawberries, I turn my attention to your sudden crying, ignoring the plums and peaches so I can pick you up and carry you. Yes, I am holding too much, I say out loud. I've loaded your stroller with bags when a woman taps my shoulder and hands me a crumpled $5 bill, fallen from my shirt pocket, and I push vegetables aside and make room for you and your feet crowded with red oak leaf, dark arugula, zucchini the full length of your shin. Only the essentials, not like the purple irises spilled when I retrieved you from the car last week. And now, where I wheel you back up the hill, stumble the bags, too many, into my trunk, slowly, I look at you, dressed in light olive, your pale skin glistening. The last to go, the lettuces. Everywhere, lettuce leaves, jammed around your tiny feet, one red oak leaf between your toes, kiss of radicchio climbing out of you. I pull bits of sun green from your dark wavy hair. And if I were a painter, I'd paint you this way. Elizabeth with lettuces, though you wouldn't stay still. And yes, that poem is all one sentence, which makes it a little challenging to read. I'm going to read a couple more, just two more. This one I was not planning to read, but it also deals with the house on Comstock Avenue, so I'm going to read it. The house on Comstock Avenue where I grew up was built by my dad, and I mean, not literally by him, but we were the first. Our family was the first to live in it, and it's a beautiful house, and now it's worth a lot of money. It was not then. It's called For Sale. The house was across from Homeby Park and up a long driveway, lavender wisteria climbing a trellis. I remember that hot walk up the hill. I can see the cottony seed masses of the floss silk tree, feel the biting thorns of its trunk. Yesterday, I learned that the house was for sale. I looked at the pictures over and over like a potential buyer with $12 million lying around. Just outside the pool is a rim of grass. Just outside the pool is a rim of grass where I burned my small feet on flagstone. Later, we had the pool half covered for my wedding. Back then, my cluttered bedroom looked out at the eucalyptus tree, the in-ground trampoline. The new owners took all that out, but my room is still there, minus the kittens in the closet. My father died in that house in the library. I can imagine him studying the shelves that last night, the built-ins covered in such a cacophony of titles: Shakespeare, A. Milne, Mishner, Galsworthy. My mother looked out at the pool where I learned to swim, the yard sweet with sweet peas, artichokes that bloomed to purple spikes, roses and roses and roses. A white hot voltage sparks through my legs when I look at those pictures. The husk of my mother still lies on the queen-size bed, looking out at the palm trees, their purple orchids grafted there. The endlessly huge windows, even with my eyes closed, I could slide on stocking feet from my mother's bedroom to the kitchen, to my room, to the little yard with various dogs. The new owners mentioned an artist's studio next to the garage. So even with all the changes, they kept that room with its paint-spattered linoleum, where Dad created landscapes that looked like hills on fire and painted us. I can still smell the oil. And the last poem I'm going to read, as soon as I find it, is called In Defense of Loneliness. And it has a line as an epigraph by Adrienne Rich. And the line is, "You're wondering if I'm lonely. Are you asking about this moment when the blue between clouds is so spare I could be imagining it? Not imagining the blue, but the loneliness, the space between what's missing and what's there. Not what's there really, but more the way birch bark separates and peels like sunburned skin. And I can focus on the red burn, how it turns white and prickles and blisters, or the new bark underneath. Not bark, but skin. Not new skin, but the pain of what's left behind. Sometimes I miss my mother's laugh, and I feel a cavern in the base of my belly. Not just my belly, but everywhere, and it opens inside me, and then, yes, I think I am lonely. So sometimes in the quiet emptiness of early morning, when everyone's asleep, I listen for their breathing, then I listen for my own, and I am alone, but not lonely. But what about that chasm stretching before me sometimes? Not a cliff's edge, really, more like I'm an eagle whose talons cannot be trusted to hold on to the branch, not just any branch, but the most important branch. Sometimes I miss my children or my husband, and they are sitting 2 feet away, and I am lonelier still. And sometimes I would do anything to speak in that shadow language, fur and bone, wing and feather, that tongue of peeling bark. If we could all just listen when the silence was unbearable, not quiet, which is different, quiet, which is full and open and sometimes haunting. If we could bear the silence, though, together, all of us, that would be something, wouldn't it? Thank you. And I forgot to thank Julene for her fabulous reading because I was nervous at the beginning, but thank you.
Thank you so much, Donna, for your marvelous reading. Thank you both. Before we close later, I'm going to ask each of you to read one final poem to send us off. But for now, I'd like to invite members of the audience to raise your virtual hand and ask a question of our poets, or have a little chat with our poets about the poems if you'd like to. So anyone who wants to, please raise your virtual hand and we'd be happy to have you chat.
And for anybody who doesn't know, the virtual hand is at the bottom where it says raise hand.
Yes. If not, you can try to raise your hand and I'll try to find you among the audience if you want to raise your physical hand. And I will scoot through and look for you if you're not able to find the virtual one. But I'm not seeing any physical hands. Does anyone have any questions? Comments?
Karen does.
Karen,
Karen, okay. Can you unmute yourself?
Make sure you're unmuted, Karen. You are muted. You're still muted. Right above your little picture, there are 3 dots in blue, and there is the mute button.
I think I got it.
Okay.
I'm old. I would like to say that I'm so proud of my sister, obviously, it touches my heart, but both poets, what I found really deeply touching is that when you hear someone read, it's their own work or the work of someone else. It's very different than reading a poem by yourself. And I've always had trouble reading poems by myself, but hearing someone read them in their own voice is very touching, is very beautiful, but it also takes you to a different plane, as it were. And for me, I visually could see both poets, what they were saying, and follow. And I wanted more. So I want to thank you both, and thank you to our host. I learned a lot, and I'm so, so proud. Thank you.
Thanks,
Aw,
Katie.
thank you, Karen. Thanks for being here, and thanks for your comments. It really does make a difference to hear the poems in the poet's voice. I think it gives it an extra layer of meaning and dimension, and adds something more personal. I feel like when we read the poems on the page, we're bringing our own journeys to the forefront, as well as the poets. But when you hear the poet's voice, there's something magical that happens. Thank you so much. And I think, is it Tamara or Tamara?
It's Tamara. Thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm wondering when for both of the poets today, and thank you so much. I just feel so touched at so many levels. And when did you start sharing your poetry, and how did your experience of sharing the poetry in community evolve for you?
Julene, you want to go first?
Well, yeah, studied my undergraduate. I went back to school for an undergraduate in 1982 in New York City, and I chose City College because Audre Lorde taught there, so I was very lucky to be in that community, and it was an amazing experience. So back then, I started sharing here and there small amounts at open mics and things like that. When I moved to the West in '89, I had to regroup myself. I was going back to school for my next degree, which was for counseling. And I didn't start reading until, I think it was 2002. And then I started going to open mics in Seattle and weaving my way in. When my first chapbook came out in 2007, then I was really jumped into doing readings, and then with each book more aggressively. But it's a gradual process for sure. And it's, first thing is sort of finding open mics that you're comfortable in or that work for you, and making that move into the world. And it's great feedback, no matter what, it's always great feedback to hear, to get people responding to your work. Donna?
Well, the first thing that came to me when you asked that question was that when I was in high school, I was in a poetry class, and there were only 6 people, and they were all girls. And I was so terrified to read my work that when I read, I couldn't stop coughing to get air, and the teacher had to bring me water. So it's been kind of an evolution since then. I took poetry. I've been in a lot of poetry groups and gotten more comfortable sharing my work when I had a community, of like-minded poets with whom to share it. And it's always scary for me to do a reading. I've never gotten that comfortable with being public with my work. Teaching, I taught for like 35 years, so I was in front of a lot of people, and that was always way easier for me than reading my own work. So I don't know if that helps, but
you.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. Yeah, I agree with Donna. It never gets easier reading my own computer.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and being in poetry groups is also really helpful to have that type of support. And I've been in many over the years, yeah.
did I miss any questions or comments or okay. Well, I had a question for both of our poets. I wonder, both of you are therapists, and whether you feel like being a therapist had any effect on your voice of poetry.
yes,
Why don't you start?
I think, I don't know whether I mean, I love stories. I love hearing stories from friends. I love, so I'm interested in stories. I'm interested in the inner world, and that drew me to therapy and to writing. Do I think that writing, there are quite a few of us actually, poet therapists. Maybe not in this particular room, but I've known quite a few. And I think it's kind of a natural connection. I don't know that I think being a therapist has influenced my work, or as much as maybe being a writer has influenced my therapy, but I'm not sure about the answer to that.
Mhm.
What about you, Julene?
Yeah, exactly. I think that writing is can be a healing process. And having studied with Louise de Salvo, who wrote the book Writing is wrote the book Writing is Healing. Um, there has been studies through therapy about the process of writing to work on healing yourself. And there's actually she quotes one of the psychotherapists, no, um, a PhD level psychoanalyst, which is different than the master's level therapists. So there's a lot of work out there, and I do think in terms of my writing as healing for me, but I don't know if other than that, I bring it into my work. I did AIDS work for 21 years, and 18 of those were working as a case manager, which was more social work. And I found writing very therapeutic for me to be that close to people, so many people dying. So it definitely is, there's a profound connection, but I'm not sure how that I think I would have been writing anyway if I were not a therapist and finding other type of material.
When I taught at UCLA Extension, I taught a class called Writing is Healing, and I taught a class called The Restorative Power of Creative Writing, which was the same class except it was on a weekend. So I don't know why it got retitled, but so I do think writing is tremendously healing, and I do sometimes use it with clients who are interested.
Mhm.
But lots of clients aren't. I mean, I'm always looking for ways that people can access their inner world.
Right.
Wonderful answers. Thank you. And I have another quick question, and that is, you both have such beautiful, beautiful covers, and I wondered about why you selected the particular art you did, what your connection to the art was. And I think that's always interesting. I'm always interested in why people choose the book covers that they do. So I think people would be interested in hearing that.
Well, I'll answer first. My dad was a painter. His paintings appear in this book. This painting does not, but this is a painting that hangs in my living room, and this is just a tiny segment of it. And I had not planned to use his painting. And at 4 a.m. one day, I woke up with, that's the cover of my book. And then I had to just figure out how to do it and what portion of the painting. It's a huge painting. It's like 4 by 4. So it was, when I tried to get it to the photographer's studio, we couldn't get it in the car. So then I had to bring the photographer to my house. It was a whole deal, but I think it was the right cover for the book.
Yeah, I think it's really special, and it works so beautifully with the title of your book, and it's wonderful to have something that your father did. That's incredible. Julene?
Well, I had met Claire Johnson, the artist who did the piece that's on my book. I don't remember. I met her. She also writes, and I met her at a Jack Straw when she read, because I would go to their readings. And actually, a lot of my Jack Straw experience was just 2023. It was last year. I thought I heard you say 03, but anyway. So I was applying to those over the years, and I went to many of the readings, and I met her at one of the readings, and then I learned she did art, and I went to see her art, and I was blown away by her art. A lot of her art is that intricate drawing in black and white, and then she does painting, and then she started adding color. And this particular cover was a project she did, interviewing people about living with AIDS. And I just fell in love with that set of drawings, and I was really honored that she agreed to let me use her cover on the front, and to choose one of those. So that was special. It felt really special to me.
And such a strong connection for you and your life's work. And,
Yeah.
just beautiful, unique,
Mhm.
powerful covers. Well, if that ends our commentary and questions, I would love for each of you to read another poem and close us out.
Julene, are you ready?
I think I am. Yes, I'm gonna read a poem that ties into this election. Some of us are going to the Poets for Harris reading after this. So this is titled What Gives Hope?
Mm.
The miracle might be we emerge from this a better world with a clearer vision, higher priorities, a closer connection to each other. That we might learn to live together in peace, a new emphasis on healing the pain our ancestors perpetuated with slavery. We've been isolated in this pandemic, thrown online to meet. Contact, our most important social soothing. Cyberspace, not the body to body we yearn. Nuance obscured with distance. Awash in protest against condoned police violence, still some are hopeful. It is clear now, essential workers are not expendable. We return our blood to the earth by rule of militaristic volition. Let us be drained like slaughtered deer or die in hospitals from COVID-19 intubated. In the streets we have always died. Our blood, our breath, obstructed with no mercy, a clamp on the poor with no clout. Unlike those who prosper from crisis, we, the little ones, with jobs lost, income gone, family dead from systemic violence, these pressured times we've always lived through, yet some have hope and fire to burn. The young, who knew Obama their first 8 years, following in his legacy, yet to lead on the front line of change that is coming. And oh, to have their fresh votes, their wisdom, their vision. Thank you.
And I read a poem from my book that sort of examines the question of if you had another life, what would it be? In another life, I am not afraid of spiders or the soft, sticky, dew-drenched web touching my face in the yard. Or perhaps I am entirely coordinated, a dancer on point. My mother has taken me to lessons many times a week since I was 3. In another life, I have such a mother. She remembers all the years of ballet lessons. She comes to every show and tells all her bridge partners about her famous daughter. In another life, my parents never die, never get old or infirm. They teach me how to grow a thriving garden. I learn the name and care for every rose. My dad plays baseball with my son. My mother teaches my daughter how to sew a ball gown. In another life, I am a bear, foraging for voles and berries. I know every corner of these woods and can recite each braid of silence in every tongue but ours. In this life, I am just a woman who stops at the pond where words swim like bright fish and takes a small sip there. I'm a woman who speaks to ghosts in her sleep, who picks up the broken pieces and tries hard to love them. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks again so much to our poets, Donna Prinzmetal and Julene Tripp. And thanks to all of you in the audience for being here. A poem is truly complete when it has a listener or a reader. I hope you'll support our poets by getting copies of their books available through the poets themselves or your favorite bookshops, even online or brick or mortar. And I hope we'll see you again at our next MoonPath Press reading, which is Thursday, October 3rd, just a couple weeks away at 5:30 p.m. Pacific for our wonderful MoonPath Press poets, Ansley Clark and Thomas A. Thomas. Until then, may you have peace and find poetry everywhere you look. Goodbye for now.
Right.